The I thought is only a mental concept. You are now identifying yourself with a wrong I, which is the I thought. This I thought rises and sinks, whereas the true significance of I is beyond both. There cannot be a break in your being. You who slept are also now awake. There is no unhappiness in your deep sleep, whereas it exists now. What is it that has happened now so that this difference is experienced? There was no I thought in your sleep, whereas it is present now. The true I is not apparent, and the false I is parading itself. This false I is the obstacle to your right knowledge. Find out from where this false I arises. Then it will disappear. You will then be only what you are. That is, absolute being. Search for the source of the I thought. That is all that one has to do. The universe exists on account of the I thought. If that ends, there is an end to misery also. The false I will end only when its source is sought. Again, people often ask how the mind is controlled. I say to them, show me the mind, and then you will know what to do. The fact is that the mind is only a bundle of thoughts. How can you extinguish it? By the thought of doing so, or by a desire? Your thoughts and desires are part and parcel of the mind. The mind is simply fattened by new thoughts rising up. Therefore, it is foolish to attempt to kill the mind by means of the mind. The only way of doing it is to find its source and hold on to it. The mind will then fade away of its own accord. Yoga teaches Chitta Vritti Nirodha, control of the activities of the mind. But I say Atma Vichara, self-inquiry. This is the practical way. Control of the activities of the mind is brought about in sleep, swoon, or by starvation. As soon as the cause is withdrawn, there is a recurrence of thoughts. Of what use is it then? In the state of stupor, there is peace and no misery. But when misery recurs, when the stupor is removed, Nirodha, control, is useless and cannot be of lasting benefit. How then can the benefit be made lasting? It is by finding the cause of misery. Misery is due to the perception of objects. If they are not there, there will be no contingent thoughts, and so misery is wiped off. How will objects cease to be, is the next question. The scriptures and the sages say that the objects are only mental creations. They have no substantive being. Investigate the matter and ascertain the truth of the statement. The result will be the conclusion that the objective world is in the subjective consciousness. The self is thus the only reality, which permeates and also envelops the world. Since there is no duality, no thoughts will arise to disturb your peace. This is realization of the self. The self is eternal, and so also is realization. Spiritual practice consists in withdrawal within the self every time you are disturbed by thought. It is not concentration or destruction of the mind, but withdrawal into the self. Concentration is ineffective because to ask the mind to kill the mind is like making the thief the policeman. He will go with you and pretend to catch the thief, but nothing will be gained. So you must turn inward and see from where the mind rises, and then it will cease to exist. In turning the mind inwards, we are, of course, employing the mind. It is well known and admitted that only with the help of the mind can the mind be killed. But instead of setting about saying there is a mind and I want to kill it, you begin to seek the source of the mind, and you find the mind does not exist at all. The mind turned outwards results in thoughts and objects. Turned inwards, it becomes itself, the self. You need not eliminate the wrong I. How can I eliminate itself? All that you need do is to find out its origin and abide there. Your efforts can extend only thus far. Then the beyond will take care of itself. You are helpless there. No effort can reach it. If I am always here and now, why do I not feel so? You ask. That is it. Who says it is not felt? Does the real I say it, or the false I? Examine it. You will find it is the wrong I. The wrong I is the obstruction. It has to be removed in order that the true I may not be hidden. The feeling that I have not realized is the obstruction to realization. In fact, it is already realized, and there is nothing more to be realized. Otherwise, the realization will be new. If it has not existed so far, it must take place hereafter. But what is born will also die. If realization is not eternal, it is not worth having. Therefore, what we seek is not that which must happen afresh. It is only that which is eternal, but now not known due to obstructions. It is that which we seek. All that we need to do is remove the obstruction. That which is eternal is not known to be so because of ignorance. Ignorance is the obstruction. Get over the ignorance and all will be well. The ignorance is identical with the I thought. Find its source and it will vanish. The I thought is like a spirit which, although not palpable, rises up simultaneously with the body, flourishes, and disappears with it. The body consciousness is the wrong I. Give up this body consciousness. It is done by seeking the source of the I. The body does not say, I am. It is you who say, I am the body. Find out who this I is. Seeking its source, it will vanish. The mind can stay or be kept in the heart and extended by periods of practice. At the end of each period, the mind returns to the present normal state. Unity in the heart is replaced by a variety of perceived phenomena. This is called the outgoing mind. The heart-going mind is called the resting mind. When one practices daily more and more in this manner, the mind will become extremely pure due to the removal of its defects, and the practice will become so easy that the purified mind will plunge into the heart as soon as the inquiry is commenced. It is possible for a person who once has had the experience of Sat Chitananda in meditation to then identify themselves with the body when out of meditation. But gradually they will lose the identification with the body in the course of their practice. In the floodlight of the self, the darkness of illusion dissipates forever. Experience gained without rooting out all the vasanas cannot remain steady. Efforts must be made to eradicate the vasanas. Knowledge can only remain unshaken after all the vasanas are rooted out. We have to contend against age-long mental tendencies. They will all go. Only they go comparatively soon in the case of those who have made sadhana in the past, and later in the case of others. But when the sun rises, does the darkness go gradually or all at once? The degree of the absence of thoughts is a measure of your progress towards self-realization. But self-realization itself does not admit of progress. It is ever the same. The self remains always in realization. The obstacles are thoughts. Progress is measured by the degree of removal of the obstacles to understanding that the self is always realized. So thoughts must be checked by seeking to whom they arise. So you go to their source, where they do not arise. Doubts are always arising. A doubt arises and is cleared. Another arises and that is cleared, making way for yet another. And so it goes on. So there is no possibility of clearing away all doubts. See to whom the doubts arise. Go to their source and abide in it. Then they cease to arise. That is how doubts are to be cleared. In the inquiry, who am I is the ego. The question really means, what is the source or origin of this ego? You need not have any particular attitude in the mind. All that is required is that you must give up the attitude that you are the body of such and such a description, with such and such a name. There is no need to have an attitude about your real nature. It exists as it always does. It is real and has no attitude. Self-inquiry is certainly not an empty formula, and it is more than the repetition of any mantra. If the inquiry, who am I, were a mere mental questioning, it would not be of much value. The very purpose of self-inquiry is to focus the entire mind at its source. It is not, therefore, a case of one eye searching for another eye. Much less is self-inquiry an empty formula, for it involves an intense activity of the entire mind to keep it steadily poised in pure self-awareness. What is your real nature? Is it writing, walking, or being? The one unalterable reality is being. Until you realize that state of pure being, you should pursue the inquiry. If once you are established in it, there will be no further worry. No one will inquire into the source of thoughts unless thoughts arise. So long as you think, I am walking or I am writing, inquire, who does it? To go on rejecting thoughts may be a stepping stone, but really, inquiry begins when you cling to yourself and you are free of the mental movement, the thought waves. Self-inquiry, vichara, is not intellectual. It is an inner quest. Holding the mind and investigating it is advised for a beginner. But what is mind after all? It is a projection of the self. See for whom it appears and from where it rises. The I thought will be found to be the root cause. Go deeper. The I thought disappears, and there is an infinitely expanded I consciousness. Be what you are. There is nothing to come down or become manifest. All that is necessary is to lose the ego. That which is always there. Even now, you are that. You are not apart from it. The blank that you experience is seen by you. You were there to see the blank. What do you wait for? The thought, I have not seen, the expectation to see, and the desire of getting something are all the workings of the ego. You have fallen into the snare of the ego. The ego says all these things, and not you. Be yourself, and nothing more. Once born, you reach something. If you reach it, you return also. Therefore, leave off all this verbiage. Be as you are. See who you are, and remain as a self, free from birth, going, coming, and returning. Knowing the self means being the self. Can you say that you do not know the self? Though you cannot see your own eyes, and though not provided with a mirror to look in, do you deny the existence of your own eyes? Similarly, you are aware of the self, even though the self is not objectified. Or do you deny yourself because it is not objectified? When you say, I cannot know the self, it means absence in terms of relative knowledge, because you have been so accustomed to relative knowledge that you identify yourself with it. Such wrong identity has forged the difficulty of not knowing the obvious self because it cannot be objectified. And then you ask, how is one to know the self? Your duty is to be, and not to be this or that. I am that I am sums up the whole truth. The method is summed up in the words, be still. What does stillness mean? It means destroy yourself. Because any form or shape is the cause of trouble. Give up the notion that I am so-and-so. All that is required to realize the self is to be still. What can be easier than that? Hence, Atma-vidya, self-knowledge, is the easiest to attain. The truth of oneself alone is worthy to be scrutinized and known. Taking it as the target of one's attention, one should keenly know it in the heart. This knowledge of oneself will be revealed only to the consciousness which is silent, clear, and free from the activity of the agitated and suffering mind. Know that the consciousness which always shines in the heart as the formless self, I, and which is known by one's being still without thinking about anything as existent or non-existent, alone is the perfect reality.